discretion. But based off of like those polls, which is the only thing that we have to actually like gauge what the electorate is thinking, it's popular across the board. So when we're talking about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, even in their home states, this is incredibly popular. And when both of these senators are actively avoiding their constituents to the point that they are either riding up on canoes to their yachts or chasing them into the bathroom, you have to wonder, why are they not answering to their electorate who is clearly upset? And then you have to take into account the fact that dark money and self-interest quite literally run Washington and this entire country. I don't think that that's in contention whatsoever here.
So, but
like dark
chaotic neutral. I tend to move to your side of these things, right? But like, let's contend with what was said previously by like Eucharist and some others, that they are responding specifically to the part of their constituency that they think will actually vote them in, right? Because not 100% of the eligible voters vote, right? So there's that. And then going by demographics, younger people vote less, and there's those younger people who are more likely to do all those activist things you were referring to, right? You know, like surround Manchin's yacht in DC, and protest them, right? So those people are less likely to vote for him. And then he has, there might be a vocal minority. Let's take the money out of it just for a second, right? But there could just be a vocal minority that we aren't taking into account, that he speaks to regularly, that could also be influencing. There's could be all kinds of ways other than saying simply corruption, right?
And I'm not. Okay, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, you can go.
Chaotic, go.
All right, I'm not saying that it's simply corruption, but what I'm saying is, in this particular political climate, it's not the voters who pick the elector, or no, it's not the voters who pick the politician at this point with gerrymandering and just the amount of, I'm going to cop out and say a corruption, but the amount of corruption that is in politics, and I can't separate money from politics. You simply can't. Politicians are increasingly choosing who votes, period. Not who votes for them, who votes based off of like gerrymandering, based off of I'm sorry, it's like 3:00 in the morning, so I'm getting really tired. And
think enough.
You're so
are you not going to bring up voter IDs? You're saying they're choosing who can't vote, and you're not going to bring up
Nathan, what are you saying? I'm not engaging with this dumbass. Nathan, what are you saying?
Is that not okay. What the fuck? I was just gonna say, hello, Vaush. I was just gonna say that the argument. I'll speak to the argument that Prime put up. What if the money isn't a factor? And some people were saying, like, what if they're just responding to their voters, the voters that are definitely going to vote? And the simple response I have to that is that Republicans, on multiple occasions, have voted in elections to support, generally speaking, progressive policies. Marijuana legalization, for example, $15 minimum wage as well. You look at Florida, which is an example I love to go to. This state went to Trump at a bigger margin than it went to DeSantis or than it went to Rick Scott in 2018. Okay, Trump had a good night in Florida, but the $15 minimum wage passed 60 to 30, which is literally aligned with the polls in West Virginia and the polls in Arizona and the polls across this country. So I'm confident to say that if it went to what's the word? I feel like I just said the word. I'm just gonna say referendum. If it went directly to the voters in West Virginia, they would vote for a $15 minimum wage. The fact that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema aren't supporting it can be explained to me by nothing besides corruption.
I feel like that's so cynical. Like
it is, but that's what politics is.
It's not really when you see.
Okay, I've got to provide some kind of opposition. Let me provide some kind of opposition. Okay, I don't know about the minimum wage stuff, but I was reading about the filibuster in Arizona and Kyrsten Sinema ban, and that's her name, and it's Joe Bitchin as well. Basically, I could not comprehend as to why she would go against her own Democratic Party, because I think it was 60 or 80% were going to vote, put a vote of no confidence if she didn't vote the way they wanted her to, which is to pass the bill. So the only two reasons, therefore, are that it is simply corruption. But when you look into that, you start to think, well, why the hell is she not gonna vote for it just for that reason and then risk losing her job? Like, that seems so stupid. And then you start to realize that there's a lot of fucking Republicans in Arizona that don't want to get rid of the filibuster. And then you start to think, well, that seems like a more plausible explanation. Now, the minimum wage things, I agree. Listen, I would love to listen. Oh, by the way, I am like pro getting rid of the filibuster in America. Like, it's fucking stupid. But realistically, I cannot comprehend that this would be a simple case of corruption where she would lose her job. She's going to lose her fucking job, and therefore all the power and money she has.
No.
Just
No, she's not losing her job. She's just getting another job as a lobbyist after she gets out of the Senate. I mean, Jesus, like
she may not even run
again.
Also,
there's a lot of dark money here.
The donations also help her keep her job, FYI. So
yeah,
so she doesn't. So she doesn't care if she loses her job as
she may or may not stop everyone. Like if she delivers on the policy goals of big donors, right? Like she gets a job afterwards. This is what happens, right? Politicians leave in the States and then they go.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
Okay. So she might just be doing for one term. That's a possibility.
Well, no, but that's not even the case either. They get reelected because they get the money again.
No, we got that. We know that. Yeah, but I'm just saying that even then, you're saying that she's saying that she's afraid of losing her job. I'm saying not necessarily the case. Like she might just be doing it to get a payday and a big one afterwards.
So you think she's voting against it to get a big payday?
I don't know.
Absolutely,
I
do. I think that she is. I really think that she is.
I
can't imagine she would have run.
Go ahead, Vaush.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my opinion on this because I think there are a lot of factors that are being left out here. The idea that politicians do things to get reelected is pretty well established, and I think it explains a lot of their behavior. But I don't think it's holistic. I mean, how much of Trump's behavior, mannerisms, policies, speeches, everything, were guided by narcissism more than anything else, right? You know, we know that the profession of politician is filled with a disproportionate number of people with personalities that trend towards narcissism and megalomaniacal thinking. It really fits given the type of stuff they do. So it's not at all unlikely that people's personal biases are going to come into account pretty often. Some of those are indignation. I imagine that to an extent, Kyrsten Sinema is motivated somewhat by spite against the people who seem to dislike her political change. I don't think that's at all unlikely. That just seems like the sort of thing people do, you know? To whether or not, like, the corporate influence stuff is corruption kind of varies. Sometimes it really is politicians just accepting money to change their opinions. Anybody who thinks politicians don't do that sometimes is like high on copium. Of course they do. For all of human history, people have done this.
Destiny thinks that.
Huh?
Destiny says that. I've had a whole thing about a whole fight with him on this one, but sorry, Bosch.
Oh yeah, no.
Being true though. So.
Huh?
No. Bosch, go ahead.
Oh well, it certainly is a thing that happens. There's no getting around that. The extent to which it happens and the degree to which it happens are contested and variable and impossible for us to know. There's also a softer corruption, you know, where they don't just change their opinion. It's that they get buddy-buddy, and we all know people are favorable towards their buddy-buddies. Our system does enable a lot of immediate contact between wealthy donors, corporations, and politicians, and that is going to procure more favorable opinions towards them. It's also going to bias their thinking. If the only groups you talk to as a politician are oil companies and rich donors who are oil barons, of course you're going to have a more positive opinion on the oil industry. That's the only information you're getting. It's the only source you're talking with, which is why Sinema and Manchin's seeming unwillingness to talk with some elements of their constituency is so concerning. This is one of the reasons why the whole politicians do what they can to get reelected stuff can be descriptive but not prescriptive, because it's not necessarily a good thing for a few reasons. First of all, if your constituencies want fascism, that doesn't, like, you couldn't go like, oh, you know, well, Trump's just doing what his constituency wants. Like, obviously we can condemn behavior even if they're trying to fulfill their constituency's wishes. And for two, to an extent, politicians cultivate their constituency's wishes. As a president, you have a huge amount of power in what your constituency will end up wanting because you guide their thinking. Trump demonstrated this very, very clearly. And likewise with Manchin and Sinema, it's not just what they support being a product of their constituency, it's that they advocate that their constituencies support them in the things they push for. So it's kind of a cyclical thing. So to cap off this ramble, I'd just say that while I do think a lot of politicians' behavior is explained by a desire to get reelected, it's not really a defense of any behavior. It's just a partial explanation for some elements of it that we can only really infer, in my opinion.
I think that's a really good point too, honestly, is the way in which candidates can shape the party opinion. I think, yeah. I mean, you made a great example with Trump. I would say it follows into local politics and everything. And there is, especially in the United States, a sort of an almost fanatical partisan loyalty. You know, where if a candidate you like says something is the case, that often becomes the belief of a large portion of their base.
I love it. And Vaush, to back you up, it's an example I use all the time, is President Obama. When he came out finally for gay marriage, right, in the very cynical way that he did. But when he did that, they had polls previously on gay marriage because it was, the talk of the town. And then they looked at it afterwards, and especially within the African American community, there was a massive shift for gay marriage afterwards, right? And then later on, when it actually was enshrined by the Supreme Court, there was another shift generally in the nation. Now, why that happened? Because a lot of people had never put any thought into it, right? They just
this is why.
Yeah, this
is why Swamp Butt was trying to get us all with the inconsistency nonsense all the time, because some people just can't imagine that you wouldn't toe that partisan line because they get all their information from those people who they revere for some reason because of that tribal loyalty.
That's actually my biggest criticism of Biden, I think, actually. It's that he's not a passionate orator for a lot of the things he claims to believe in, Like
he
Donald
doesn't
Trump.
use any of his political power, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I'm sure he talks a lot within the party, but like any time Donald Trump opened his mouth, you heard 27 arguments, bad ones, mind you, but arguments for everything he believed in. Every time you gave him any second to talk, and he would remind his entire constituency why they should follow him off the edge of the earth, But
Trump
with Biden,
let him finish. He's like a straight up cult leader.
Oh my God!
I mean, he, if nothing else, he had passion and drive, not towards good ends. But I do think that politicians should be passionate advocates for good things. And Biden's, he's a little sleepy.
I think Trump is just used to being showbiz, though, and that's why he acts the way he does. He's very used to being in front of a camera.
Yeah, but Biden's been in politics how long?
Yeah, but Biden's not there as an entertainer. He's there to talk about the most boring shit possible, which is legislation.
I don't know. Did you hear a story about?
Okay,
I mean, Trump isn't. I don't think you can compare Trump and Biden on their mannerisms and how enthusiastic they are, because Trump literally isn't a politician. This guy was built for TV. That's his prime purpose, is to entertain.
No.
I mean, apart from him being involved in politics.
Apart from him being the president, he's not really...
Yeah, but when that... Yeah,
I have to
after the career.
He was involved in politics for about a decade before
he donated to a couple, but he never ran for office, really.
Janie, I don't know how, first of all, you're making these things as they're mutually exclusive. Oh, well, Trump is an entertainer or con man, or however you want to say that, and he had practice in front of TV. The main mode of communicating with the American people is TV, right? For any politician, right? JFK and Nixon learned this, right? During their debate. Like this is the game as it's played. So you have to be able to communicate to people where they're at, and they're on fucking TV. They're on video, right? And so I
we're on video.
and Vaush going there and bringing up that fuck, I'm losing my point now. But shit, what was fuck?
I don't disagree with you. I know what you're trying to get to. I understand what you're saying. However, I do think Joe Biden is a particular case because we know that he has struggled with his speech before in the past.
No,
and that's why.
Is that me?
I swear, didn't he have like a stutter?
Yeah, he had a speech impediment. But he's long over that. And that's not.
I know.
That's not the point.
I know what you're saying. I know.
That's not the point.
Oh my god, I know what I'm saying, but it's really fucking hard to communicate at 9 o'clock in the fucking morning. Okay, like he is like not built for speeches. He has never been. That's never been his strong suit ever. Ever as a politician.
That's not.
And I know what you're saying. That should be the strong suit.
You're not.
But you're saying what it should be, not what it is.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying.
Compared to Trump,
you don't understand what I'm saying. Hold on.
You're just agreeing that he has a flaw, and we're saying that he has that flaw.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No. You don't understand what I've been saying. Hold on. Oh my God, I'm talking. You don't understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I'm trying to agree with Vaush, and I remember my previous point, is that when Trump talked, he made a case. He was constantly making a case for his policies, no matter what it was, right? Now, I'm not saying that necessarily that Biden can emulate his style or that he should. Certainly not. He's his own person. He has his own way of doing things. That's okay. But to be constantly making a case, to be using the bully pulpit, that's what Trump traveled constantly. He was always on the road making his case to his individuals. You don't have to be an elegant speaker. Trump is not an elegant speaker to accomplish this, right? But the point is to always be pushing and letting everyone know exactly what you're standing for and exactly what you're pushing for.
I think that as time goes on, that's actually going to become a more essential part of the president's job. Think about Nixon versus Kennedy, the introduction of the television, and all of a sudden that Nixon looking sullen and disheveled, as opposed to, Kennedy looking well put together and handsome. It made a big difference. But now we don't just have occasional television debates and broadcasts. With web video, we get more access directly to the president than ever before. And as Congress becomes more gridlocked, it seems like the importance of the politician as a political agent, as an untangler of knots behind the scenes, is fading, and the rising prominence of the politician as an orator, as a deliverer of information, that seems to be taking over. Any president should have. They don't have the time to do all that, menial work themselves. What they do have the time to do is speak to the nation. So maybe in the future, we'll need to see this shift from the Democrats, who, at least in the party structure, seem to favor more moderate establishment, non-populist candidates, because otherwise I fear the Republicans, who are clearly just going full fucking hedge into populist, demagoguery, might have an advantage in their ability to sway audiences,
Yeah,
the Republicans are way better at tapping into populism than the Democrats, unfortunately. We need to get better at that.
I would say
populism is fucking cringe.
Wrong. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice incorrect opinion there.
But I was just gonna say, I definitely agree with the point that Vaush just made. That's not really a surprise to anybody that watches these streams and sees me on it. But I remember speaking. I was gonna say, I think that we're somewhat seeing this shift. A lot of the progressives in Congress come from activist backgrounds. Bernie comes from an activist background, and he loved his rallies. He was crazy from. And I think if we see more progressives generally getting in office, we're probably going to see a future where the Democratic Party is more willing to sell their message. I honestly can't comprehend why Joe Biden doesn't fly around the country constantly. People kind of criticize Trump for being constantly on campaign mode, but that's what he's fucking good at. And every single politician
didn't get reelected, did he?
Yeah, but Biden isn't. Biden's not good at that. That's why he just.
Well,
Biden promote these policies.
That's a real problem for us then, because we need somebody who can send a strong message. We need somebody who can.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Middle of the road Democrats are hopping on board, and we need those middle of the road Democrats to sell these policies to their constituents. And that's where the problem is. They're choosing not to sell the policies to their constituents. They're choosing not to get out in front of the cameras. They're choosing not to talk about it. Instead, they're choosing to do the exact opposite, even though it's popular in their district or in their state.
If it's popular, then you can vote
popular
out
with
right?
The
wait, what was that? What was that?
So you're going to win, and you're going to vote out cinema, right? Because it's so easy. And
that's the plan. We're coming.
You're not going to be able to vote out.
Cinema might legitimately lose re-election
in the Arizona Democratic Party.
Going.
So they're already on their way to doing it. They're going to censure her if she doesn't reform the filibuster.
Yeah, the Democrats.
I don't think so.
They've already voted no confidence in her.
Yeah, they're already doing it. I know people inside the party that I associate with, and they are dead set on doing this if she falters on this.
Wait, what are they doing?
They're gonna censure her if she doesn't go along with the infrastructure.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the fuck that is.
The reconciliation.
They want to put a vote of no confidence, basically.
They already did.
They already did. All the Arizona Democrats funding from her re-election campaign, and they'll put up a primary against her.
Oh yeah, maybe. But they're probably not going to be there.
The Democrats don't really have the stomach for like severe condemnations, not the way that Republicans do. Like if you turned even a little bit against Trump, they'd scream at you were a rhino. I mean, they were very harsh with it. I feel like Democrats are too committed to civility to really dedicate themselves to that.
Exactly. Democrats need to be more committed to being more cutthroat.
To infighting.
That's just not demonstrable in what we're seeing.
Democrats need to be more insane and cult-like. What a real great
yes.
Wait, pause. In this polarized society, that's exactly what they need to do.
I'm not saying they need to be more insane and cult-like. I'm saying that, condemnation of the worst elements of your party is a natural part of any political party making, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's
well, yeah, but everyone's version of that is different.
But I was gonna say,
I wasn't advocating for Oh, sorry. Never mind. Go on.
Oh, I was just I don't understand what we're saying cult-like when we're saying Democrats should be stronger advocates for their policies. If I was president, I understand me and Joe Biden are different people, but I'd be in fucking West Virginia right now talking to people, doing rallies, doing 5 rallies a day until he makes his decision. I'd go to Arizona as well. One of the points I think that is being made by
let Nathan finish.
It was a
let Nathan finish.
Sorry, go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, no problem. I was just gonna say, I think one of the points being made in opposition to my perspective is that if we put pressure on someone like Sinema, we're gonna potentially lose the seat. Why? We're pressuring her to pick popular policy. I understand that,
it's West Virginia. That's why.
Kristen Sinema is not in West Virginia, sir. Yeah. Anyway, so Mark Kelly is doing fine. Mark Kelly is much more aligned with the Build Back Better agenda, among other good policies. He's not perfect, but he's better than Sinema, and he's doing just fine in the polls.
Maybe the people that elect him are a different group of people.
They're fucking senators from Arizona. What the fuck are you talking about?
Maybe the group that Mark Kelly is trying to advertise himself towards is one group of people. Maybe
the group that helped him win.
Maybe older or maybe younger.
Right?
College.
No, they're not just
a center.
Wait. I'm sorry. The way the Senate works is not separated into districts like fucking Congress. Holy shit. The way I know somebody else did. Okay. It's literally they're not going for different demographics. They have the same fucking state.
What do you mean?
No, they could.
They're going for different.
Might rely on one
portions of that.
Yeah.
Of that,
there's a Republican and a Democrat version for each state, right? That's why there's 100.
No. That's a big fundamental misunderstanding of how the Senate works.
No, you can laugh. I'm asking a question, okay?
There
are 2 senators per state.
It's just I would ask something like that. That's why.
Yeah, sure. So 2 senators per state. They have to go after the same people. The only reason why there's 2 is because when the country was founded, What the fuck are you talking about? They don't go after.
So Mark Kelly might be aiming for younger, maybe more white, college-educated people because he's a little bit more progressive, and maybe
when you're saying
Cinema is going after a different demographic of people.
Oh,
okay, wait, no, okay, so wait,
platform.
So I mean, these are two senators from the same state. Why the fuck are you saying they have to go? I'm understanding your point. Why logically, why the fuck are they going after two different demographics if the Democratic demographic, I guess you're saying, elected a person in a tight district? Or excuse me, I'm sorry, I fucked up my own words.
Right? State politics change over the years, right?
Yeah, and it seems like the state's turning on Cinema now.
Well, it's the same thing like when Obama was president, right?
I want to ask a hypothetical. I want to ask a hypothetical as somebody who doesn't live in the US and doesn't know this too well. If you're within the same state, would you target two different demographics to cover more ground, or would you always go for the same? Would you work a single strategy, or would you divide?
I
mean, unless you're in like DC or like Maryland or like a full blue state.
No, but are you going to divide them by the two senators?
No.
You divide
in different cycles.
You don't have to divide between demographics.
Vaush, you have to target both. You have to target both, or you're gonna lose.
Well, it's a matter of where you spend your money, and in terms of like your constituency, you're always going to spend campaign money on targeting the demographics where you think you can increase your constituency by the greatest amount. So, you know, for more progressive people, that's going to be people who live in cities, people of color, younger people, and for less, you know, progressive people, it's going to be the opposite. But at the end of the day, while you're all pulling from the same people who could potentially vote for you, you're going to target different groups just as a matter of mathematical, you know, expediency.
Speaking facts.
Yeah.
I just want to say, by the way, that keep in mind that you can also create your own constituency to an extent. Think of how much the Republican Party has changed in the past 20 years. I mean, if you showed a Republican if you took them out of 9/11 and you brought them to today, I don't think they'd recognize their party. It's like a frog in a boiling pot, right? Though, of course, the phrase there is a myth. The frog would jump out if the pot got too hot. But the myth, I think, holds true in describing their behavior, because as a slow procession of events and normalizations, you know, we arrive today at a very different party. And I think that the Democrats have to be active in shaping those who they want to be voted for or by in the future. You know, Bernie Sanders did a really good job of this because the dude left a huge mark on the discourse. But to what extent is Biden going to do that? Or will Biden be remembered for the things he believed in, or for the policies he managed to eke through during his presidency? And I think, unfortunately, it's going to be the latter. Trump will not be remembered for his policies. He got done a tenth of what he said he wanted to do. He will be remembered for his effect on the party.
Let's go. I want to try you, Chris. I want to try you, Chris. You, Chris, go.
So much has happened. I got to gather my thoughts. Go to somebody else.
Okay.
Can I go?
Go ahead, Crunch.
Well, I think the Republican Party changed for the most part is because the right realized that Halliburton and Bush was kind of a bad choice, you know, right? Like, people,
I would vote for them.
Like, you can say, like, I'm like, oh, I hate Republicans, so I'm going to think the worst of them. But for the most part, I think, like, Trump was a step up than fucking Dick Cheney and Bush. And that's my opinion.
In what ways?
Well, okay.
Yeah, what ways?
In what ways? You know, handing out contracts and going to war for fucking money. I mean, I think that's a really big change for a party.
If you're an Iraqi, step up.
Yeah. Because we were pulling out of those countries under Trump. So, like, as much as we hate Trump, like, right, we probably would have stayed in that war. You know, Obama could have gotten us out, and Biden could have too. Like, luckily,
Biden did get us out.
Luckily, Trump was a catalyst to get us out of Afghanistan.
Wait, no. Absolutely fucking false. Absolutely fucking false.
Really? So what did Obama do to get us out of Afghanistan?
I don't give a fuck about Obama.
To get us out of
okay, then
on Afghanistan. Yeah, wait.
You don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not going to shut up. You are clearly don't even know what the fuck you're talking about because you don't even understand Trump's record. So get off his dick and let me explain his record.
Didn't do?
So I'm not
not set a
talking about
deadline
it.
to get out of
Why the fuck
Afghanistan.
are you even disrupting shit?
so-
You ran off like a little baby and
Shut
cried.
up! You talk forever, Vivian. No one cares what you have to say.
You literally
So-
said bye in the chat
Wait.
twice, and then you came back because Vaush is here.
Okay, so Donald
No,
Trump
I just didn't want to get
is-
muted and hear Vivian's
flattered,
diatribe.
Vaush?
Go cry.
Donald
Go on,
Trump.
piss off.
Nathan, finish.
Donald Trump is the Republican Party with the extra coat of paint of authoritarianism. But literally, some of the biggest highlights of George Bush's career was a huge major tax cut and military intervention in the Middle East, warmonger. What are some of the big highlights of Donald Trump's career? A huge, unneeded, irresponsible tax cut, increasing federal spending, much like George W. Bush, and increasing drone strikes 435%, as well as continuing our support for things like the actions that the Saudis are doing to the people in Yemen. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he kept us in fucking Afghanistan when we could have left a long ass time ago. The only president that has been willing to do it in this century has been Joe Biden. So I would say,
Dude, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Everything you
How
just
is
said is dumb.
How is it dumb?
What
How
is
is
what is wrong with
Is it
actually
dumb?
Trump
Because
Actually drop more drones than
every
Obama.
Are
Yeah,
facts dumb?
every president we've had has done nothing to get us out of Afghanistan. Trump at least
Wait,
set a
Joe
deadline to do
Biden.
so.
Wait, pause. Did you?
That's
Who
what-
got us
okay,
out
okay.
of
If
Afghanistan?
If you let me
That's what the
fucking
difference
talk, if you let me talk, right?
Good, shouldn't have
Every
left
president
Afghanistan
fucking
anyway.
before Trump did nothing to get us out of Afghanistan, right? And you guys are using
Wait,
this
that's-
whole fucking shitty evac from Afghanistan as something. Oh, this is Trump's fault because he fucking did this.
I
Okay.
love that. I love
wait,
Joe
wait,
Biden.
hold on. There are numbers.
This is
Wait,
like
there are
Is
numbers.
it just
the
clear because he
fucking
signed
thing.
all the deals? All right,
Hold on.
just talk over me because you're being fucking inconsistent. Good
There are
deal.
numbers.
Wait, what am
I'm
I?
talking over you
Go
because
ahead.
you're just
Go ahead.
wrong.
Go ahead.
Oh boy.
That's so
Okay,
fucking
one at a
okay.
time. Vosh, give it a
So-
try.
So, with regards to the U.S. troop levels in Afghanistan, things spiked in 2011 under Obama with over 100,000 troops there. Of course, we killed, Osama bin Laden, and things declined afterwards. Though we should have left quite a bit before that point. We never should have been there at all. Not trying to play otherwise. However, I'm very
Yeah, I
tired.
was there.
However,
We should have been there.
right. However, at the end of Obama's term, the troop level was brought down to around 10,000, which was about a third of what he inherited in the beginning of his term. And at the end of Trump's term, at first it went up. 2017 and 18, we had increases in the troop level in Afghanistan. And then it was brought down to Obama levels. And then the only meaningful dip under Trump was a spike downwards in 2020, corresponding with deals made. Of course, he released quite a few Taliban leaders who then later participated in the recapture of Kabul. So, I mean, I guess, deals
Talking
made,
about
deals
Obama
lost.
releasing Taliban leaders
I'm talking about Trump
for
releasing
Joe,
Taliban.
for Bo Bergdahl.
So, wait, hold on. So I understand this is a partisan contest for you, but I spend about as much time criticizing
It's not,
Democrats.
dude. I really don't care.
Okay, good. Well, then you can see that Trump really wasn't anything special when it came to
I
mitigating
don't think
warfare.
he was, but I'm saying
Especially-
he's the one that put forth.
Okay, now let Vosh finish. Go ahead, Vosh.
All right. So the only thing is, if your defense of Trump as sort of a preferable option to Bush is that he eased up on the warfare, relative to Bush, I guess that's true because he didn't start the Iraq and Afghanistanian war. But in terms of his overall behavior, he seems at best set par for the course and at worst kind of monstrous. The drone strikes increased massively. They stopped reporting civilian deaths because it was making the administration look really bad. And Donald Trump has even expressed support for military action that took place beforehand. I think, didn't he say that he supported what happened with Gaddafi in Libya? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure he said at the time that he was that he would have been in favor
against the Iraq and Afghan war.
No,
That's not
There's
Libya.
plenty of record of it. There's a lot of record of that.
Gaddafi in Libya.
Wasn't in either of those countries.
I know
though.
Gaddafi's in Libya, which was also a huge mistake, and which is why I didn't vote for fucking Clinton.
Well, that's what I was saying. I
Yeah.
think Trump expressed support for at a point that he was saying he would have done the same thing. So I'm just saying he's not really great when it comes to like keeping us out of warfare. If you wanted an anti-warfare president, I mean, shouldn't you have voted for like Bernie Sanders or something?
I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016, even though I think he's a fucking idiot. Yeah, like he was just better than fucking the two we had a choice for. Like if you vote, you could laugh. You didn't vote in this election because you live in a different fucking country. So moving on. You know, I had two
Oh, sorry,
choices.
because we're in a different country. We can't have any opinion
what was my choice?
It's not as if U.S. policy directly affects most of the rest of the world.
Like Gary Johnson just smoked weed and didn't know anything about Syria, okay? But the other two were kind of shit. What I'm saying is
literally all libertarians give a shit about is not going to war and smoking weed, and that's like the whole of their
I mean, I fought. I did 2 combat tours in Afghanistan.
Oh yeah,
I didn't want to send other people to do shit.
Let's not forget the Great War of capitalism that we need to stop, of course.
Eucharist.
Yeah, I knew he was going to turn it at some point.
Eucharist, say something smart.
All right, so I this conversation went 100 different ways. I wanted to go back to what Vaush said a little while ago. So he said, right, Congress people seek election. That's not the whole story. Sure, I think we all agree on that on some level. So you can have somebody in office who is expressly ideological and principled. You get the wild, wacky Ron Pauls of the world, right? Who have an almost pristine voting record in line with their ideology, and somehow they keep getting reelected because people just like the shtick, right? They just go along with it. They really like this guy. He keeps getting reelected in his district. You know, somebody like that. Maybe that's Sinema's deal, right? Maybe she's principled. Maybe she's just sticking to her guns. I don't think that's true, but maybe you can get somebody reelected who has no instinct for self-preservation. That happens. You get people who are idiots in politics. They luck into an office and then they last a term. Maybe that's what she's going to be. Maybe you get somebody who thinks they can leverage it into a new career after a term or two, and so maybe she's one of those. Maybe she's just a moron and she just doesn't understand how to get reelected, or just doesn't understand what her constituents want. All of those are possible. I don't think that she is necessarily in the same category. We keep talking about her in the same sentence as Manchin because of current like voting lines, right? But I don't think she is necessarily in the same category as Manchin, because he is I think somebody who is a pretty decent politician who is doing what he thinks will get him reelected. So in any case, Vaush went from there to like talking about presidents, and I think presidents, as far as we can tell, are different than Congress people, not just because they only get reelected once, right? So if you're a member of the House of Representatives, you go up for reelection much more often. Senators, obviously, it's a longer term, but presidents can only get reelected once. But also because presidents have different like constraints on their authority and different goals in office, right? They might have a legislative agenda what they want to get, and they might have more control over it. They might want to leave a legacy. There are things that a president can do that a congressperson can't. So they have different incentives and motives and institutional constraints on their behavior. So yeah, so they're gonna be different. Going back to the media conversation, though, the difference between like a Biden and a Trump, I think it's really interesting because there's a clear change in how people campaign in the pre and post TV era that we've talked about a little bit. But this is something that is really famously described in a book called Congress at the Grassroots by Richard Fenno, who's like a really super famous political scientist. But he walks around a district in Georgia with a guy named John Flint, who, if you don't know, is the guy who Newt Gingrich ends up unseating in Georgia. And so he's with him for years and goes around with him and looks at how he represents his district. So he goes with him to these like little corner markets and to these neighborhood grocery stores, and this representative would just like hang out outside and be like, "Hey, I'm John Flint. Do you know who I am? Did you vote for me? Like, what interests you? Like, what do you want me to blah blah?" Like, he would have these conversations with the people in his district. And then Newt Gingrich comes along, and his entire campaign was like TV focused. It was top down. It was very broad, and it didn't work. He beat Newt Gingrich a couple of times actually, but Newt Gingrich ends up winning. And as we're aware, he ends up in American politics for a long time because he figured out the TV thing pretty early. He was ahead of the curve in some ways. So Flint campaigns the old way, Gingrich campaigns the new way. It's kind of a microcosm of how things go. So somebody like a Trump ends up being really appealing as a showman, and I think Quinn Janey is right to say like Trump is not the same thing as a career politician. He doesn't have the same incentives acting on him. He doesn't have the same behavior necessarily. He doesn't have like the same like if you're in Congress for a long period of time, you're going to behave differently than somebody who is an upstart. It's going to happen. You're going to be trained in certain ways of behaving that are going to be different from the way Trump behaved. So yeah, obviously it didn't work. Vivian said like he didn't get reelected. So obviously it's not like it's a clean, oh yeah, just be a showman and you're going to win election over and over and over again. But there's something there. So the last thing I'll say, and then I'll stop for a while. Vaush brought up the frog pot thing with like, oh, look where the Republican Party is. That's just true for parties in general. Like, parties aren't what they used to be. Parties used to be strong. Parties used to really actually matter, and they still do to an extent, but not the way they used to, right? You don't get, like, especially the 2016 primary field in the Republican Party with the old Republican Party, but you don't get Bernie versus Hillary with the old Republican or the old Democratic Party. It's just like parties are different today than they used to be. Like, American politics works differently. It's far more decentralized. It's not as like focused on the GOP and the DNC. There's a lot more going on. So
Okay, Prime.
I like parties.
Can you agree? Right. Can I just say, can you agree that the media training you get as the showman that Trump was is different to the media training you get as a politician?
Yes, but that doesn't negate my point.
I don't know if Trump's really.
Wait.
I don't know if Trump's
I did have one more thing. I'm sorry. So, real quick, as we're talking about Trump and demagoguery and tyranny, Queen Janie, I happen to have a convenient copy of the complete works of Plato, and we're.
Please, anything but the philosophy. Listen,
you're still doing philosophy.
I will not do it. Sacrilege.
You're doing philosophy right now.
Yeah.
You're doing philosophy right now.
I haven't put powder on my concealer yet. You're creasing me up.
Okay. Can you believe that philosophers have been writing shit for millennia and they still haven't found out anything better than good things are good and bad things are bad?
And they
Crazy.
still haven't figured out that philosophy
I just
is
don't like
annoying and cringe. Like, Jesus Christ.
I just don't like having 78-year-old politicians.
How do you know they haven't found that out?
Eucharist, like, I love you, but you're gonna give me an aneurysm.
So
you're
right now. That Biden was a good orator. He's never been a good orator. He's gotten in trouble for stealing speeches because he can't even get a speech written right. I mean, the guy is not a good orator. So I mean, to people wondering like why he's not more boisterous, he's just not a good public speaker.
You
he never has
have to be boisterous.
Look, I think we can all agree.
No,
I think we can all agree
you don't
that
have to be. You don't have to be boisterous. This point of simply making your case. You can do that in all kinds of styles, right? You don't have to do it within the Trump style. Saying that Biden had a different media training, right? Like, that's sure, great. That doesn't mean that he can't make his case. You can do that in many different ways, right? So whatever way
Trump
works
was
for
corny.
him, so whatever way works for him, do that, right? Do that. But
I think we're falling so far.
But he's not doing anything, and he's
thinking a 78-year-old man knows what's best for
subordinates on his behalf. He needs to send out very vocal subordinates on his behalf, people that either work in the White House or that are willing to do it in Senate and Congress, and put them out, in these contentious places.
I'm sorry, have you not seen those press briefings? This man cannot fucking select the right person.
Why are we voting for 70-year-old people? Right?
Why?
That we have as a leader of the free world. Can we put I'm a fucking right-wing chud behind you, and can we come to some common ground, right? Like voting for a 70-year-old man.
No,
right?
No, I disagree.
As the free world, I think is fucking ridiculous.
I don't 2024, baby, 100%. I don't give a fuck.
I know you have to fucking hate everything I say for fucking dunks because I'm right wing, but I'm saying there's a reasonable takes.
You're not
trying to dunk on everyone, buddy.
I mean, it's been happening this whole panel.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're doing this victimhood thing, right? Like, no, we disagree. Just like you said last time. Just like you said last time that, we all agree on that other topic, right? And so we should move on. No, that wasn't the case. We didn't agree, and we don't agree now. No, you can actually vote for 70-plus-year-olds and have good results. You can have a person who is sharp, who is capable of handling the job physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever, right? Like, you can actually have that. So no, like Bernie fucking Sanders. Like Bernie fucking Sanders. That's who.
Well, yeah, but Bernie Sanders doesn't have dementia, like early onset dementia. Biden might.
Yeah, but that's not his point. That's not his point. That's not his point, though. His point is just 70-year-olds in general.
Bernie Sanders is like a fucking unicorn. He's been consistent since day one.
Yeah, he's amazing.
This, as much as I hate it, right? Bernie Sanders has always been consistent.
Okay, great. So
he's a national treasure.
So age does not
necessarily. Listen. Okay, I'm gonna say something.
No. Hold on, Jane. Hold on. Is your problem with the age or his consistency? Because it shouldn't matter that he's been consistent, right?
Okay, so Biden and Trump are good presidents.
You're gonna ask a question instead of answer it?
Yeah, answer the question.
No, okay. My problem is consistency. Sure, Biden
Okay,
and Trump fucking are ass, and then like half the fucking politicians we have in Congress and the Senate are shit.
Yeah, okay. So, but that has nothing to do with
Right?
You don't like
It's
Biden?
a partisan politics thing, you know, and it's like, oh, let's own the right or let's own the left, so we vote for fucking morons, and when we accept it.
Wait. Be fair. Nobody
You
on the
can
left
get mad
voted
at
for
me.
Biden
Like
to
it's
own
fine, but
anyone
I'm
on
saying
the
like
right.
what I'm saying is not true. And any other day,
bro, you're the only one who's upset.
people. Any other day of the week, if it wasn't a right-wing person saying it, you'd be like, "Fuck all these old people." Because I'm saying,
wait. Can I just point out that every time someone disagrees with you,
why is everybody
point
picking
out
on me
that
just
every
'cause I'm
time
a
someone
righty?
disagrees with you, you
I
try and
can't
make this
agree
a
with
right
you
versus
because of
left
your
issue.
politics.
Every time someone disagrees with you, it's like, oh, you should disagree with me because I'm
Vivian,
right.
you don't even know how to like what cookies are called. You call them biscuits. So just shut the fuck up. You're like irrelevant here.
Listen,
Are you on that one?
Nobody likes breakfast and eggs. Bro, England is like the worst food. Unlike the scale of shit food, England is like down here. Under
You're
like
actively dismantling
I'd rather have
conversation.
breakfast and eggs
It's
in
not
England.
disgusting. It's not.
All right,
The bread in your
Everything you do is
it never goes up. That's
and
not
all
normal.
of these problems that we're arguing are caused by the UK, like Israel and Palestine.
Okay,
so moving on.
Okay, well,
thank you.
So, but demonstrably, right? Demonstrably, what you said isn't the case, right? Like there are some pretty significant political differences between me and other people on this panel, and I agree with them regularly. Fucking Janie is a shit lib, okay? She's fucking dumb and she needs to understand politics more. All right?
Okay, fuck
like
you.
Jamie's a lib.
Fucking me and
I'm
Vaush
a
have had
fucking
political
lib, yeah, sue
disagreements
me.
before.
God, I
right?
want to suck them, but according to everybody else, I'm a lib.
It's
too.
fine. Look, don't take it personally. Everybody else is a shit lib too. Okay. Look,
It's
fucking
okay.
me and Vaush have had political disagreements.
Yeah, I'm a fascist,
Me
but
and
we've agreed
Prime
on
have had.
stuff.
I've never called you a fascist.
We'll get
but,
along
like, but
perfectly.
The reason people are disagreeing with you is because you're fucking wrong and dumb. Okay. Like this isn't partisanship. Not like you. Who is just constantly fucking trying to bring up, like, why don't you agree with the Democrats?
What is wrong and dumb that I said specifically, Vivian, or were you not listening?
Like how
Did you vote for
senators
Bernie?
get elected?
Specifically.
How senators get elected?
That was dumb.
How senators get
How did
elected?
who?
How senators get elected?
Okay, so the thing that I admitted that I was wrong about, like fucking 2 hours ago, Prime. That's what you're
did you not ask me? Did you not ask anything else? Ask us what you got wrong.
Is that it?
Hold on.
Is that it? Like that was the only thing that I said that was dumb and stupid.
And then
you asked for a singular
and then
example.
you talked about
and now you wanna
70-year-olds.
contest it.
And then you talk about 70-year-olds being a problem.
Yeah, they shouldn't. I think we should vote for people that
then you
fucking
immediately change your mind as soon as you got called out on it, right? And so like, oh no, actually the problem is consistency.
I mean,
right?
you have to live in the like. Look, if you're 70-something years old, you don't have a lot of life to live, so your policy doesn't really affect the
Okay,
rest
but you
of
only
your
have to
life
be in office for like
Okay, that's stupid. I disagree with
Also,
that.
Jewish grandpas all live to
Can I
110.
say something though?
Jesus
I
Christ,
just
you
want
guys
to
are
say, I think it
argue
does
anything
generally.
based on labels.
Okay.
Wait, you
I
guys,
think it
the only
generally
person
makes
bringing
sense.
up labels is you, dude. The only person bringing up labels is
That's
you.
what you're doing. You will argue anything. Like if I say the sky is blue because I'm right wing, you'd be like, "Oh,
yes,
no,
God,
As you actively bring up labels again.
No, fucking. Do you not agree that fucking politicians in their 70s is like?
Wow. Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. So as I understand it, the opinion expressed by the left-leaning people on this panel is maybe we should generally strive to have younger politicians, but Bernie Sanders specifically is all right. Is that hypocritical?
No, that's not what I was saying.
I think that's consistent.
No.
Yeah, I literally don't care how old a politician is, so long as they can do their job and they have the positions that I agree
Okay,
with.
but I want to say something.
as
Didn't
long as
Bernie
they're
have
in
like
line with
health
what people
issues,
want.
like during the election cycle?
Yeah, he was
Probably,
campaigning.
just
He did have a
So we
heart
can't
attack.
really
right?
weaponize shit against Biden, like, and then
Well,
say like medical issues
wait.
against
It's
a politician, and
for
then
me,
say
it's not.
an issue.
So for me, it's not about weaponizing. It's so one is a health concern, and that's always going to be a problem with older people. Trump, for example, is not a healthy person, but he chugged it through. You know, he made it. The goat.
No, I agree.
Powered on through. Now, maybe the stress of the presidency would have done Bernie Sanders in, even though he's alive now. I don't know, but For me, the bigger issue is representation. I want politicians to feel tapped into the world as it is now. For example, internet literacy is unironically a huge problem with a lot of people in Congress right now, because there's so much policy that gets half-assed on that stuff because they don't know. You watch these testimonials done to Congress, and they clearly have no idea what anything on the internet is.
A series of tubes.
Right, and stuff like that is.
No, it's a truck.
Stuff like that is potentially really harmful.
Are you going to commit to ending Finster, Vaush? Are you going to commit to ending Finster?
Oh God, yes.
I would not ban
you made Finster
over a certain age from winning. I wouldn't ban them from
Say something?
running, but
no, not banning. Just we should make an effort to have young blood in a party to keep things fresh. It's one of the reasons I like AOC. You know, aside from like all the policy and everything else, I guess it's just kind of nice seeing like somebody who's young and energized in a party.
You want representatives to represent their constituents, and a significant amount of people's constituents happen to be like 25 and under.
Aging.
And they should. Yeah,
well, significant. We have an aging population in the UK. I'm pretty sure that is similar in the US. Then you've got to vote for somebody older by that logic.
I'm just saying
the average age in Congress is definitely higher than the average age of a citizen.
Janie, we're just talking about having people who are younger in the party. Holy crap! Like, yeah.
So, go ahead, Fresh Ink.
What I was going to say is, and actually, I was actually at the very beginning when Crutchlord first said it, like on the same side where if you're a certain age, you shouldn't be on it. But I think hearing him say the words out loud made me consider that people like Bernie Sanders are capable of enough empathy of genuinely caring about issues that would affect young people. So I think it's totally not hypocritical. Like, I think, I think
if we said that thing about young people, if we said it about, like, I don't know, if the black population in the United States was declining, and I was like, we should still have some black people in office to represent their black constituents, you wouldn't be like, oh, well, no, we should be voting for a white person because the black population's declining. That would be fucking stupid. Like,
young people are black.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Gosh, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. Some people might take that seriously.
We automatically became.
That's 100% what I just said. You fucking dipshit.
Clip it.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think that politicians in general, if they are, physically, mentally fit, that they should be allowed to do the job. Though I do agree exactly with Vaush in that, like, we should be bringing in younger individuals. Because it seems, especially when you look at the party leadership, that it's calcified, especially on the Democratic side. It's like seriously calcified. And that people refuse to step aside and let others in. And fucking boomers are gonna drag us down like to the fucking grave with them. But I don't want to count a person out simply because of their age and that they may not get it. In fact, they might have better motivations and policies than someone closer to my age. So I don't think it just rules them out.
Yeah, no, we should be fair. Much in the same way that saying that you want like diversity in a workplace doesn't mean that you couldn't have white people, right? I mean, it's just a matter of trying to take it all into consideration and be holistic. Now, here's the real contentious opinion, right? Baby representatives.
100%.
To be perfectly representative of the population. A little suit and tie.
To be honest, though, I think that things like term limits are really important to keep the cycle happening in Congress. Even if we don't do it like in the federal level, maybe within parties, like saying, hey, we kind of have this thing. You've got to like rotate out your seat, because having those Washington insiders there for so long is what disconnects them from a lot of the average people. Vaush was just talking about it earlier about how they get wrapped up with the oil industry, they get wrapped up with lobbyists, their fellow people in Congress. Like, we should be rotating people out a little bit more frequently.
I think Vaush made a good point in that, like, we probably should eventually have baby representatives, because we should be extending the vote to babies. And representatives should represent the voters, right?
She's not actually kidding
about
about that.
We have to stop voting for babies. You're not honest children.
No,
scare the shit out of me.
I wanted to jump on that though. Like, why have the minimum age for elected representatives? That like
it should just be adults. Why not set two adults?
Well, sorry, folks. I have to go. It's too sleepy time.
Have a good one.
It depends.
See you later.
Thanks for being here.
Good night.
Hey, thanks for agreeing with me.
Yeah, isn't the limit like 30 something in the United States, or is it 40?
It's 35.
It depends
on 20. It's 25 for the House of Representatives and 35 for the Senate.
And then 40 was it 40 for president or 45?
No, it's still
35 for president. Excuse me. All right.
I think that we should have a maximum age just across the board. I think 25 should be the minimum and 65 should be the maximum. I agree. Look, I'll be the maverick here. I agree with age limits, even if it is Bernie Sanders. I agree with his politics.
Thank you.
Because
thank you.
Because people who are on their way out, they shouldn't have they shouldn't have a say in politics. That's just my personal opinion.
If you're about to,
absolutely not.
I'm not. I look.
You're not dead.
Okay. Well,
footballs is Social Security.
Wait,
it's extremely important that older people still have a say.
No, we should never.
50 years left versus 10. I don't care.
We should never consult the people who are affected on issues like fucking palliative care or fucking pensions or like that. This is fucking dumb.
I think we should consult them, but I don't
why do you think
have legislative power?
Also, why do you think the minimum age should be 25?
Somebody that has 10 years left to live in the U.S. should not have the same.
So shut up.
No.
Okay,
that's completely fucking.
All right, hold on. I need to follow a single thread between people are talking. All right.
Yeah.
So I do want to hear an answer to that chaotic neutral. Why does the minimum age have to be 25? We send people out to die to war. Right? We think they're mature enough to pick up a gun, go across the world and murder people. So why can't at 18?
Murder? That's what it is?
Yes, murder.
Yeah, pretty much.
18. I mean, then why can't they also take office?
I say 25 as opposed to 18 is because I don't think that the brain is mature enough to make those decisions. Let me not say those decisions. I don't think that the brain is mature enough to actually handle complex legislation at 18. They don't, and this is just a referendum on the American education system. They're not taught proper education at 25. If you're going to be running for an office, you're either going to be highly educated or have some sort of experience beyond
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Absolutely not.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That's kind of.
Look. I understand there are caveats to that rule. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump are definitely caveats to that rule about not knowing anything and still getting inside of politics. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
What do you think? What do you think is a more complex decision, like trying to deal with some legislation where you have a
legislatively complex decision?
No, wait. Let me finish the question.
Okay.
What do you think requires more complex thinking? Right, trying to draft legislation with a huge team of people around you and all your fucking colleagues helping you out, or trying to decide whether or not you should travel overseas and start shooting people. Which do you think's more?
You're not going to like the answer. I think that the legislative one is a lot more complex.
Can I say something?
Okay. Well, I mean,
following orders is not hard to do.
If we're talking about
holy fuck, that's not what I said. I didn't say.
I don't think you even under. Well, okay, sorry. I think you're overestimating one of the mental work that our legislators do. Most of them don't even create legislation, right? Most of them are backbenchers and just do what they're told. So you're talking about following orders. They can actually do that within Congress, right? Like Nancy Pelosi, what should I vote for? What do you need me to do? Okay, I'm on it, right? You can do exactly that. You can look at polls and figure out, well, I guess this is my position. You can do all of that. Like looking at, complex legislation, these legislation oftentimes aren't you'll get individuals to help you create that legislation, right? If you are even creating them, and you get people to help you understand legislation if you bother reading them, because most of them don't, right? They'll just vote for things they don't. Yeah. So okay.
So my question is: are those decisions easier at 18 or 25?
No difference. Would be my question. No difference whatsoever. Okay. if I could, when it comes to like age limits and all that stuff, it just seems so unnecessary. And you know, me and Jason usually are quite aligned on many of these issues, but I actually disagree with his take as well. I don't think the problem with our politics is age. I don't think the problem with our politics is necessarily the terms. When I'll address age first. If we make it so that Nancy Pelosi can't run for office anymore, you know who becomes the Speaker of the House? Hakeem Jeffries, because you know who has the fucking ability to run people, even if it's younger people? The establishment does. The people that are currently buying out politicians that happen to be older will be able to buy out politicians that happen to be 40 years old, 30 years old, or even 20 whatever years old. So it really doesn't matter what the age is if the corruption is still going to be there. And I have no reason to believe that just because someone's younger means the corruption is going to go away. And that same logic applies for like the term limits.
Because it's not going to change, you just opt to do nothing.
No, absolutely not. It just seems like an unnecessary reform that doesn't change anything. That just limits democracy.
If you propose a solution, then it needs to fucking solve something, doesn't it? You don't just place restrictions on people when they don't fucking do anything. And I would say, like, yeah.
And I'll say on the when it comes to the difficulty of work, bro, being a politician is not so difficult. Let's not give them like that much credit, okay? They have a team of experts around them at all times. Sometimes they don't even have a team of experts. Sometimes they just sit around. And
if you're old enough to vote, you should be old enough to hold office. Like you are making complicated decisions about legislation when you go to fucking vote, right?
And when it comes to term limits, there's a reason why people like Ted Cruz are comfortable with something like term limits. When Ted Cruz is just another corrupt establishment politician, there's a reason why so many Republicans are for it, and maybe I'm sure some Democrats as well. But many of these establishment folks are for it because at the end of the day, if they can't be a politician, okay, they were there for 2 terms. They get to go through the revolving door into lobbying or some form of that. They get a reward at the end. They have a thing safe. But if we did have term limits, it would prevent someone like Bernie Sanders from being elected or being able to be in the Senate in like fucking 2006. He wouldn't be able to run because of term limits. If we had age limits, it would prevent people like Bernie Sanders from being there. When Bernie Sanders is just as competent.
Outliner.
I mean, and Markey's a pretty and Markey's a pretty good guy as well. And frankly, my big thing is just what's the point of limiting democracy if it has? What are you talking about? This is a fucking partisan politics. Hold on, wait.
You want to know why your side doesn't win? Because you call the military fucking murderers when they're just doing what you're saying.
Why are you citing this?
Hold on.
Shut the fuck up. There's a reason why you're in the UK and not in the US.
I'm genuinely confused.
Nobody cares what you have to say. This is why you have the right-wing people on your panel and your fucking views drop from fucking 300. Get out of here. You're fucking stupid, dude.
Okay. All right, the partisan hack's done. Okay,
second time.
Get wrecked.
He only came back for Vaush, 100%.
He actually only did come back for Vaush. I believe that 100%.
He seriously double rage quit. That's amazing.
He called the
This is good because now we have a perfect square.
Oh yeah, true.
Don't add anybody else. We are just so great. We're the best of the best, obviously.
My big
Jesus.
My big problem with like the concept of these age limits and term limits. So the age limits are justified by saying, okay, well, a lot of them are going to be dead on the way out, and if you're under 25, your brain isn't fully developed. Okay, well, listening to fucking 30-something-year-olds, 40-something-year-olds interacting with 40-something-year-olds in like college classes, for instance, it doesn't feel like their brain's fucking developed. Okay, so age. Fuck that, bro. If you're good and you can win, you are good and you can win. Okay, you should be able to run, especially when the policy is going to affect you.
Okay, but what does good mean though?
Okay,
but what does good mean,
sure.
Though? That's the question.
So if someone happens to be 18 years old and they are running on the policies that I agree with, I should be able to vote for them. And they have interest in running. They're gonna surround themselves with smart people and experts that'll guide them through the process. I see no reason why that person should be limited because of their age, especially when the policies directly affect them. When they're 18 years old, they're legal adults. They can go fight in the military. They can go fight in war. They could be drafted. why the fuck wouldn't they be allowed in office? And also, it just in general with age limits and term limits, my big thing is democracy shouldn't be limited when it's fucking unnecessary. What's the point? I don't care if someone's on their way out. FDR is my fucking favorite president. He did a lot of good shit. The New Deal was transformative. In my opinion, based on the shit I looked at, I think it did solve the Great Depression. Some people argue it was World War II. I disagree. He's a good president, in my opinion. And he was on his fucking way out. He died in office and was clearly fucking dying, but then he won a fourth term as he should.
Okay, let's go to you, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, there's term limits and lowering the voting age and lowering the minimum age to run. All that. I mean, those are a bunch of different conversations. I tend to just think, yeah, like these minimums that we have set up are heuristics. I don't have to defend them as like objective standards. I don't think that like there's a good reason you could draw a line at 17 versus 19 versus 18 for voting, 25 versus 35 for Senate. You know, like they're heuristics. I don't feel wedded to them, but I would just like, I would want to hear a really good argument for why any minimum should be abolished, and maybe I could be convinced of that. But that's, I feel like it's a kind of I don't give a fuck kind of thing where it's just like it's just a whole rabbit trail on each of those, and they're each, I think, slightly different conversations.
Because why ought a citizen, right, somebody who's subject to the laws of the nation, be barred from public office simply because of their age? This shit's like undemocratic.
Well, you're not necessarily barred from public office. You're barred from certain public offices. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, so maybe we have a hierarchy of like, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable to say, yeah, if you're of legal voting age, you should be able to perform public service, and we want to expect somebody who is at the what? Well, I don't know what your position is, but maybe it's reasonable to. Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe it's reasonable to expect that the person who runs the whole show has some measure of experience, which age could be a heuristic of. It's obviously not always. Like Trump didn't have experience to run the country. It doesn't work well. I'm not saying it does. But yeah, so I on that point, sure, yeah, like I would say, yeah, if you're of voting age, there ought to be public service leadership options available to you. So yeah, anyways, I want to kind of skip.
Be president.
Yeah,
like
be president. I don't know.
Because any fucking moron, right, as long as they're within the age range, can be president. If you're saying it's because of some degree of competence that people around this age are supposed to have, that's demonstrably not fucking true. And so you might as well get rid of these age limits as well.
Okay, so separate conversation that I don't care about having right now. I think we were having an interesting conversation before this came up about what actually does it mean to represent somebody. So we have motivations for maybe wanting more younger people in elected office because we have some sort of intuition that those younger people would represent certain interests better, but we're not really like kind of digging into what representation means. I mean, as long as we're making digs about, you know, people who aren't from the US, right? We had a whole Revolutionary War over representation and what it entails, right? Like this is a serious issue, I think. And so can somebody who is 75, 78, 80, 90 on their way out, you know, can they represent my interests well? Well, we could argue about that. But as Viv said, right, like obviously it's important for those people where we're daily making political decisions that impact people at that age, they should be represented as well. So does that representation require that somebody who is that age be in elected office? Or like, you know, yeah, I don't know. I think that's an interesting conversation to have. More interesting to me than should it be 15 or 18?
We could have multiple presidents for each age range, right? Like it's just like at some point, if you elect a 30-year-old, right, then you can say by that logic, well, then 70-year-olds aren't being represented. Like we failed because we don't have someone older at that point. So like,
that's assuming a certain idea of what it means to represent somebody. Yeah. So maybe.
I don't think it requires somebody like that to be in office. I think we should encourage it. My main objection was to what I would say is like the undemocratic stance that like certain people can't hold public office because they aren't of a certain age, right? I think if you're part of the voting process, at least, right, if you're old enough to vote, you should be able to hold public office. And I'm totally against restrictions on democracy. You already have far too fucking many in your system anyway, right? And I want to open it up as much as possible.
I just want to say one of the big issues we have in the UK is that the vast majority of people that are involved in local politics are much older. either retirement age or just below, and therefore it becomes quite unappealing for young people to get involved.
Young people
And
can't
although you might
fucking
have
do it. Young people can't do it because,
well, yeah.
I mean, maybe if you're at university and you've got a very light course or whatever, but like most working class young people, we don't get fucking paid enough. Man, if I wanted to do campaigning when I was like 16, I had 3 jobs and couldn't pay my fucking rent. Like, that's how bad that
I
shit
mean,
was.
yeah, but like I'm okay, so I work, well, I don't get paid. I work, I don't want to say what I do. Basically, like I am involved locally in politics, but you really don't need to do that much. Like you can do the bare minimum and still be involved and have a say in what policies you want to push for at your party conference. You can still be involved and tell your local representative what your issues are and what you want them to campaign on in the next general election. Like there are many ways you can get involved without taking up a significant proportion of your time. Like you don't need a serious amount of time available. Like I understand, yeah, if you work during the day, then it can be difficult to arrange. Or if you've got like issues with childcare, you don't have time to like attend meetings. But usually a meeting is like once every month. It's not like that involved. There's no excuses to why people can't get involved. The issue is getting the word out there, I think, and signing up to join a party can be a bit more difficult, but usually there are discounts for younger members to join, and there is often a lot of campaigning you can do even outside of a party.
Okay. Frankly, I'd rather get rid of party politics altogether.
Okay, so I gotta
go.
The yard beat me to it. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you coming through. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a 1v1 debate with Nathan and a guy. But
oh yeah,
a guy. Oh my god, that's amazing.
I will be debating Jackson Hinkle tomorrow. World famous Jimmy Dore orbiter. We're gonna be talking about progressive strategy. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. All right. So come back for that. And then 9 p.m. Eastern. Should be around when we start. Hit the follow button. You haven't done so yet. Hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on so you know I'm going live. I do it 6 nights a week. Don't you miss out. If you're just arriving here or arrived here recently, hit that follow button. If you've been enjoying this, hit that follow button right now. Or if you hated this, hit that follow button any which way, and then you can come back here and yell at us. We'd love to have you back. Hit that follow button right now. Make sure notifications are on. Exclamation social in chat. To follow us on social media, jump into our Twitter. Twitter is where get our channel updates and whatnot. Jump into the Discord. Discord is where all our conversations are happening. This conversation is happening here. Online conversations, offline conversations, conversations about politics, and all kinds of other things happen on Discord. So jump into that Discord, be a part of the community that we're building there. And then YouTube is where you'll find the VODs. They live there, not here. So go to YouTube, subscribe, like, and comment. Okay, I'm going to send you off to our friend Fawn, who is streaming about stuff. I don't know, but she's cool. I like her. So go enjoy that. She's a nice woman. And I will see you tomorrow. We'll do more stuff. All right, off you go.
We don't get to.